Hi folks, this is Karim from IT Visualizer channel. We will continue our lab, the Red Alert Lab. This is the video number 102. We have been discussing in the previous video the following. We have been working now for 13 videos on discussing the documentation of CIS, Critical Security Controls version 8, which is a documentation that discuss the protecting of yourself or protecting our networks against cybersecurity attacks. This documentation was provided by the Center of Internet Security Organization, which its main focus to issue recommendations for securing different platforms, different applications, and security in general, or securing networks. So the first 4 points in securing yourself against cybersecurity attacks. The first point is to, in brief of course, the first point is to have a hardware inventory of your enterprise assets, and the second point is to have an inventory of your enterprise assets software, and the third point is to protect your data or data protection, and the fourth point is to secure configuration of your hardware and software assets, or the enterprise assets hardware and software's configuration, to secure your enterprise assets software and hardware configuration. So the previous video talked in general that when you initially set up most of the softwares and operating systems, they come with a lot of services and a lot of configurations that some of them are not necessary, and some of them are not secure or not or can be hacked or can be utilized by hackers. So you need, after you make your initial configuration for any operating system or any application, you need to harden this configuration, okay, according to some experts' recommendations. For example, the CIS organization issues recommendations to secure different platforms on different applications, so you can use one of these recommendations and apply it to your operating system or your application. For example, you can use the recommendations of the Department of Defense of the United States to secure any application or any platform you have. So this is the first thing. Every platform or every software comes with an initial configuration that opens a lot of services and a lot of configurations that some of them are not needed and some of them need to be closed because they are a security breach or can be used to hack your operating system. So we need to after making our initial configuration, to harden this configuration, and by hardening this configuration we are protecting our network. So for example, there is one point when you are initially configuring Windows 10, there is a user name called administrator. This username doesn't have a password, so you need to make a password for the administrator user account, which is created when you install Windows 10. It is disabled by default, but this account doesn't have a password, so a hacker knows that there is a user called administrator and it is disabled and it doesn't have a password. So you need to take care of this point because it is a security point. And not only you make a password for the administrator account, but to rename it to any different name. So this is one of the things, or one of the configurations of the Windows 10 that need to be changed after the initial configuration of it or after installing it. And the same applies to Windows Server, and this not applied or applies to operating systems, but for different applications. Most of the applications that come and be installed or initially configured, some of them have default usernames and passwords that are known to different hackers. So you need to change your applications default usernames and password to be different, or to disable them completely if they are not it cannot be changed or cannot be given a password, or to have a username that have the same privileges of these accounts. So these are all things the documentation says you need to secure your configuration of your hardware and software. Software, this is known. What about the hardware? You need to protect your hardware configuration. So for example, your server have some RAMs installed, some hard disk installed, some processors installed. All of these are called hardware configuration. This hardware should be protected. How we can protect it? For example, servers, we need to put it in a data center. As for workstations, we need to secure the workstation in a location or secure the workstation case itself, so no one can stole something for it. So these are all things we need to take care when we are making our initial configuration for any device in the network. Okay, and by the way, also one of the things, you need to have a centralized location, so all of your configuration for your different assets should be stored in this location, and any changes made to this configuration of any devices also should be stored in this database. Okay, why is this? Because this database will be one location that contains all of your configurations, and this can be used in future to solve problems or to make audits, for example. So this is a very good thing, and some software use this kind of database and make relationship between different configurations. So for example, maybe your financial application works on a database, and this database relies on, for example, NAS storage. So there is a configuration for the SQL database, there is a configuration for the financial application, there is a configuration for NAS storage. So any change in any of these devices configuration will affect the whole performance, okay, of the application in general, okay, or the performance of your client. For example, maybe I having a PC, I'm connecting to a financial application that depends upon a database and the NAS storage. If one of these things changes, this will affect my experience connecting to this financial application. So anyway, we need to secure our configuration by hardening it, and we need to secure our configuration by storing it and maintaining it. So for example, maybe you need to change some configurations after a different or after applying a certain update. Maybe, for example, you are updating Windows 10 and this update makes some problems with the configuration of the printer, for example, connected to this PC. So you need to change the configuration. So this is the thing, you need to not only secure your configuration by hardening it, but also to store it and maintain it, okay, and keep it in one location so we can return to it. And one of the things this PDF says, or the CIS says, you need to use a specialized software to save your initial configuration and maintain your initial configuration and make relationships between different configurations. Some software like ServiceNow or Sharewell, these two software can make a database and store in it all of your configurations, okay, and maintain it and make relationships between different configurations, and we have discussed this in the previous video. So let's make a recap or make some bullet points about how we can secure our configuration. He is saying that establish and maintain a secure configuration process. Establish and maintain a secure configuration process by having a software that contains a database that save in it all of your initial configurations and maintain this configuration or save any changes to it, and use these different configurations and relate them to each other. Okay, so you maintain a secure process for enterprise assets, end user devices, including portable and mobile, non-computing Internet of Things devices and servers, and software, operating systems and applications. So you have configuration for routers, for switches, for laptops, okay, for devices or Android devices. Maybe you have it for servers, Windows servers, or Windows application or Windows workstations like Windows 10. Review and update documentation annually or when significant price changes occur that could impact this safeguard. So you need to use a software that will establish or will create a database that contains all of your devices configurations, and it will save any changes to these configurations in its database and then relate the different configurations to each other, and use also this database, for example, if you need to make an audit on your different devices configurations. So this is one of the things. This can be done using software, and you need to secure the configuration by applying different vendors or different companies that have an interest in security. So for example, you can use the CIS recommendations to secure different devices, laptops, workstations, routers, switches. So this is how you can secure your configuration. So the configuration need to be saved, need to be maintained, need to be secured. You can save it and maintain it in a database, and you can secure it using different vendors' recommendations like the CIS or the Department of Defense of the United States. These are done, the first point are done for devices. The second thing is done for network devices like switches, routers, and so on and so forth. This focus on laptops, mobile phones, servers, workstations. The other one to secure network infrastructure, routers, switches, and so on. And one of the things to secure your configuration, to make automatic session lock on enterprise assets. So you make a screensaver that will be initialized after the PC is left idle for 15 minutes. This will help to protect the PC against changes in its system configuration. So for example, if I am a user sitting on my Windows 10 PC and it was not locked, and it was not or the screensaver was not activated, so anyone can come to my PC and change the setting of my Windows 10 PC. So this will protect my PC against sudden or unattended changes in the configuration. Okay, and then one of the things to also to protect your servers and your workstations from hacking, and some of these hacks changes the configuration of the workstations or the server. This can be done by protecting your servers and workstations by installing a firewall or a software firewall on it. So we all know that Windows Server and Windows 10 have Windows 10 firewall installed by default. So you can activate these two or the Windows firewall on these two devices, the servers and the workstations. But one of the things, or one of the recommendations, is to disable Windows firewall on servers, because it makes a lot of problems. You need to create different firewall rules to allow different ports to be opened and different services to work, so you can at the workstation communicate with the server. Anyway, you can disable it and depend upon other third-party firewalls to protect your server, or depend upon hardware firewall like the FortiGate or the Sophos to protect your servers. So firewalls should be enabled on servers and workstations, and we have said I recommend not to disable or to have Windows firewall enabled on servers. So these are two, and we have discussed until this point. The second point, to secure managing enterprise assets and software. So if you need to connect to a server or a workstation to change its configuration, so the connection to this server or to this workstation should be secure. How is this done? By using secure protocols. So for example, if you are connecting to a web server, then you should use HTTPS protocol. If you are connecting to a router or switch to change the configuration, then you should use SSH protocol, not use the Telnet protocol. And some of the things also to secure accessing to different devices to change its configuration is to protect the device itself that is connecting to the router. So for example, if you have a Windows 10 PC and you want to connect through it to connect remotely to a switch, then the Windows 10 operating system should be secure, and the connection to the router or the switch should be secure. We have discussed a lot of these recommendations, how to secure Windows 10. And for example, when you are connecting to an Active Directory, we have created a special workstation with a special configuration. This was called Privilege Access Workstation. This workstation have a lot of configurations to secure it, and it doesn't have internet access, so we prevent it from being hacked. So there is some things when you are considering to connect to high value servers that contains high value configuration or high value data, you should use a special PCs to connect to these kind of servers. So use special protocols to secure the connection to this high value service, to change its configuration. Okay, so this is other things. Let's continue. Manage default accounts on enterprise assistant software. We have said before that most of the applications come with some non-default usernames and password. These usernames and password should be changed to any other thing. Okay, like the local administrator account on Windows 10, it should be renamed from administrator to any other thing, and to give it a password, and altogether it should be disabled. And we have another account that have the same privileges of the local administrator account. Then uninstall or disable unnecessary services on enterprise assistant software. So for example, maybe Windows 10 have Windows Store. So Windows Store is a very dangerous application because it contains a lot of applications we don't have control on it. So a user can, through Windows Store, install a game or install an application we don't have, or we don't secure it, or we don't harden its configuration. So this is one thing. You need to disable unnecessary services on enterprise assistant software. How we can know this? We can know this from recommendations of known organizations like CIS or Department of Defense of the United States. So you can see their recommendations and know what are the necessary software and hardware to be used. Okay, so this is thing we need to take into consideration. Then this point number 9, to use trusted DNS servers. So we all DNS know that a DNS, it is a service that enables us to talk to different PCs in our network and to talk or to reach websites on the internet. So this service is very critical. So if a hacker can hack a DNS server, he can reach every device and every website in our network. So we need to let our devices inside our network to use a trusted, secure DNS. I have a video in this series how we can secure our DNS and how to make it or to protect it against hack. And we should use a secure DNS server and let our devices in our network use this DNS server to communicate to each other and to reach websites out of our network. Okay, then enforce automatic device lockout on portable end devices. This is a group policy we can apply by stating that if a user trying to log into a machine, for example, a user tried to log into Windows 10 by his username or with his account, if he typed the password wrong for example 5 trials or 5 times, then his account should be disabled. Okay, so this is a very important security practice, because some hackers try to hack an account by trying different usernames and passwords and trying them for a lot of times. So if you don't have a policy to disable the account after certain amounts of entering the password not correct, this will make the hacker easy, or make the job of the hacker easy. So you need to always monitor the failed login accounts in your network and see if this is the normal activity or it is maybe a hacking activity. So you need to see this and you need to monitor it, and this will help also devices to protect its configuration. So for example, if a hacker try to access the server to change its configuration by accessing the server through an account, so if I am protecting this account against fail trials or fail authentication or fail login attempts, this will protect my device against changing of its configuration. And the 11th point is to enable remote wipeout capability. We all know that devices now, it's not only concentrating on laptops or portable devices. Sometimes our phones are considered to be an asset or an enterprise asset nowadays. So we need to have a mechanism if our for example phone devices of our company was stolen. So we need to have a software that can wipe on this phone, that can wipe the data and wipe our sensitive data on this phone when it is stolen. So for example, maybe you have an iPhone that have an email of your company installed on it, and this email account contains sensitive data. So you need to have a way to remotely wipe all of the emails and all of the data on this phone remotely. This can be done, and this was implemented in my company. We have a software that was installed on the iPhone that secure the iPhone and secure the email account installed on it, and it can wipe the data when this device is stolen. Okay, and at the end we need to have separate profiles. So if your phone or your iPhone you use it for accessing your Facebook and accessing your personal applications, this should be separated in a profile. And if you are using it to access emails and access company emails, this should be done in a separate profile. And these two profiles are separated and cannot cannot reach each other. So a profile is completely separated from, or the company profile is completely separated for your personal profile. So this is also to secure the data and the configuration on the iPhone. Okay, so these are the bullet points to secure your configuration of your enterprise assets, hardware or software. And I have said before that the CIS have a software that you can use to scan any device in your network, and it will scan it and give you recommendations to secure it based on the recommendations of this organization. So the organization CIS issued recommendations to protect different applications and different devices, and it created a program that used these recommendations and scanned the devices for it and tell you which point in these recommendations you are not implemented on your device. So let me show you all something about this, or let me show a video that I have recorded about this thing. Let me get it quickly. So here you can see this is my Workstation Pro, and then I have a Windows 10 operating system installed on a virtual machine. By the way, the device is called CIS Cat Lite. Let me show you all how you can get it. So here, let me show you all. If we opened this PDF, let me show you all. If we go to the online, let me show you the fourth recommendation. Here you go. So let me show you all here. This is how you can get, let me show you all. This is a link to get something called CIS Cat Lite. This is a software that can be used to scan for vulnerabilities in your software based on the recommendations of this organization. And by the way, they are saying here, if you need to secure a lot of devices through using the CIS recommendations, this can be done using a group policy, or you can make a PC or make a server and apply all of the CIS recommendations on it, and then take an image from it, okay, and apply it to other servers or to other workstations. And this is the points here. He's saying that you can, for example, if you're making this for a workstation, if you need to secure, for example, Windows 10, you make a PC, install Windows 10 on it, install the different applications on it, and then use software to scan for the vulnerabilities of the softwares installed on this Windows 10 machine and the Windows 10 operating system itself. Make a report and then apply the recommendations, or fix the issues or the security points concerning your Windows 10 and the applications, and then after fixing it you can take an image and then apply it to other PCs or other servers. Okay, so let me see, or let me show you all how we can use this software. You need to access this link, and to get the program you need to provide your username, or to make or provide your email to send you a link for set up this software. Anyway, we will close it completely. We'll close this one, and then let me show you all how we can install it. This is very simple. You need to install the software from, or get it from the link, and then apply it. Here is the icon of the program. This is Cat Lite, this is accessor, and then this is the software. You open it, and then it will scan your system and say, for example, this is Windows 10, then I need to scan for vulnerabilities on Windows 10 using our organization recommendations. And then I will show you a PDF or electronic PDF for these recommendations and how they look like. But let me first show you how we can use this software. So here it will ask you if you need to scan this system for vulnerabilities or remote systems, if you are on a network or on a domain or in a domain, so you can access remote PCs or you can scan remote PCs. But let me tell him only to scan the basic system or my operating system. So now we are scanning it, and then here it has detected that I need to scan for Windows 10. It said we have Windows 10 and we will apply the Windows 10, or we scan for Windows 10 vulnerabilities, okay, and see it. But by the way, here I choose Windows 10 standalone because this is a PC in a work group, or it is a standalone operating system. So I will tell him to use this benchmark or this PDF to scan for vulnerabilities on my system. If this is in a domain, maybe you need to use this one, okay, or Windows 10 Enterprise benchmark. Anyway, so I need to tell him to make or apply recommendations or to scan for CIS recommendations on a standalone. And here we can see we have a lot of levels, security levels. So you can apply or secure your Windows 10 standalone PC first level of security until level 2 security. So you have a lot of levels or security levels, and you are free to choose what level you need. So if you need the highest protection, then you should reach level 2. If you need the minimum level of protection or that can be acceptable, then you can use level 1. Anyway, this depends upon your company, your organization. And I will show you all that the PDF talks or gives a brief about these security levels. It gives you about every description about every level. Here we see that what I have done, I have removed the recommendation, or I have told him you need to only use the standalone benchmark to scan for vulnerabilities. Okay, this is the one that I need to use to scan on vulnerabilities on my PC. So now we tell him next, and then we will see that it will begin scanning my Windows 10 and give me recommendations about how to make it secure. Okay, in a previous video I have discussed how we can scan for vulnerabilities and apply group policies or local group policies to fix these vulnerabilities, and then take an image when I was securing Windows 11. Please refer to the Windows 11 master image video to see how we can secure Windows 11, okay, based on recommendations of the Department of Defense. Okay, and then take an image of this Windows 11. Okay, here we can see that it will give you a report in a folder, so we need to go to the folder and check and see the report. This report is a very detailed report. If we see it now, we can open it in the Edge browser. You will see it is a very detailed report. It will give you a lot of info about different things, and if you see how it is structured, you will see that it gives you, for example, you have 100 recommendation. It will give you how much of these are applied and how much of these are not applied, and give you a percentage, okay, how much was implemented from this recommendation. So for this PDF, so for example, if we go there, we can see, let me show you all something. If you go here, for example, you can see that there is a password policy recommendation. We have 7 recommendations. You have applied 2 of them and 5 of them are not applied, so you are 29% success or score, okay, from applying this recommendations. So if you go there, it will give you what recommendations are not applied and how you can apply them through changing the registry or to apply through a group policy, and will give you a definition about this recommendation, why you need to apply it. For example, here we can see that the password policy we have 7 recommendations. This is the recommendations in short, and if you click on one of them, it will give you a description about this recommendation and the result if you fail or pass. Okay, so for example, here is saying that the maximum password level or the maximum length of the password in your Windows 10 should be 14 characters or more, and the default for Windows 10 is 7 characters. So you need to change it to be more secure to 14 characters. Okay, and he will show you all how you can do this. You can do this using or changing the local group policy of the machine, or to change it using the registry. If you are in a domain, you should apply an Active Directory group policy. Anyway, so let me show, or let me give you a little bit of a brief. Here he's saying this is one of the recommendations, why it is failed, and description, and then how you can change it. Okay, and this how you can change it from the registry, and this is the result when the tool scan your registry. It says that from this entry in the registry, that means that you don't apply this control or this recommendation. So you can use this detailed PDF to see all of the recommendations, how much of them are applied, okay, how much of them are not applied, and then the recommendations that are not applied, you are responsible to change it. Okay, you can change it manually or change it through a group policy or import the group policy, but actually he doesn't give you a group policy to import it. You should do it manually. This is not in the case of the Department of Defense. The Department of Defense of the United States give you ready-made group policies that contains all of their recommendations, and you can import it directly to a group policy and apply it to the machine. So this is something also very good thing, or this is the difference between the CIS recommendations and the Department of Defense of the United States recommendation. They give you the recommendations, they give you the group policies that include their recommendations, and you can import it and apply it directly, okay, without need to do this configuration manually. So we can see this is a very detailed report. You can use it and read it and see what things you should use, or how it can be applied, and the registry keys that you can use to change this setting or to apply these recommendations using a group policy. So here, this is the end of the video, for using the CIS. We have used something called SCAP before. This is the tool used by the Department of Defense to scan for vulnerabilities based on the recommendation. I have a video also for using this utility, please refer to it. So this concludes for the point for secure configuration of enterprise assets and software. And remember, there is some specialized software that you can use to scan for different configurations of your devices, store them in a database and maintain them, okay, and use it later for maybe audit sessions or something. So you can use something like Sharewell or ServiceNow to collect configurations of different devices and store it in a database. Okay, so this is how we can secure our configuration of our assets and software. And we should not only secure, or we should not only maintain and save the configurations of different devices, but you should secure it based on recommendations of the CIS or the Department of Defense. I will go further, and the next point is to something called account management. Let me show you all the next point, or this is the 5th point that the CIS documentation talks about it. Let me show you a little bit of a brief about it. It's a very short one actually, so we will discuss it now. The recommendations say, the 5th recommendation, something called account management. Let me show you all the explanation of it. Use processes and tools to assign and manage authorization to credentials for user accounts, including administrator accounts as well as service accounts to enterprise assets and software. So he's saying here that you need to have, or need to carefully manage your accounts. These accounts could be normal user accounts, and this account should be could be administrator accounts or service accounts. Here is stressing on that you need to always monitor your accounts in your environment. If you have an Active Directory, you should always monitor the Active Directory users and accounts. If some of your users maybe left the property, or one employee, you have an Active Directory username for him, and this employee left the organization, then his user account from the Active Directory should be deleted. You should not leave any account which is not used anymore. Or if an account was not used for a certain amount of time, from maybe 45 days, then you should disable the account. This should not be left opened. Okay, so you should monitor your accounts, and high privilege accounts like administrators and service accounts, this should have a very strong password. Okay, and they should not be used on non-secured workstations. For example, you all know that when I connect from the PA workstation to connect to my Active Directory, I use my special account, or use my domain admin account to connect to the Active Directory. Okay, so, and this domain admin account is not used on a normal workstation. We use it on a secure workstation. Okay, so in brief, this control number 5, or this point, says you should manage your accounts. High privilege accounts should be always monitored and should be used on secure workstations, and high privilege accounts should not be used for normal operations. So for example, you should not use your domain admin account to install software on servers or on workstations. You should not use it to check your email, or check your or use it in the normal operation. Okay, so administrator accounts should be separated. Some accounts should be used, for example, to access the Active Directory. Some of them should be used to access high value servers. So for example, not one administrator account should be used to access all servers. So for example, an account used to access the Active Directory, an account used to access an application server, an account used to access a third application server. So not only one account can access all the things, or not to give one account all of the privileges. You should divide the privileges, so if one of the accounts are stolen, then this will not damage or will not affect your network. We have discussed this a lot. Remember, we have the Department of Defense recommendations stressing on this point, on separating domain admin account from local administrator accounts, and to separate the normal IT users that used to browse the email or browse their emails, separated from using it in troubleshooting and accessing different servers. We have discussed this a lot. Please refer to my videos on securing Windows 10 and securing Windows Server, and see the section on accounts or on administrative accounts. Okay, so he is saying you should always monitor your user accounts. Okay, and he's saying also another thing, that all of your accounts should be centralized, or you should manage them from a centralized location. This is applied in our Active Directory. You have a central location, which is the Active Directory, to manage all of your accounts. Okay, so he's saying here again, account management, to take care on monitoring all of your accounts. If some of them are not active for a certain amount of time, they should, or not used for a certain amount of time, they should be disabled. The administrative accounts should be monitored and should be used on secure PCs, and should be used only for administrative work, not for normal work. Okay, so we can see here this is talking about this. Let me again go to account management again. So here he's saying about this, saying, let me go further. Okay, sorry. If you go there, let me go further and continue. So here, how we can control our user accounts. We can do this from the Active Directory, and here he is giving you a little PDF. Okay, he's saying here that give you some password policy guide. If you need, for example, we need to secure our accounts by monitoring them, and if some of them are not used, we should disable them, and some high privilege accounts should be monitored, and also you should protect the account by providing a good password for the account. And this is a paper from the CIS about the password guide policy. It gives you some recommendations on how to set up your policy also, or password policy. This also was done by the Department of Defense, remember, for securing Windows 10 passwords and securing Windows Server passwords and securing the Active Directory passwords. And please refer to my videos concerning securing Active Directory, securing Windows 10, securing Windows Server. This contains how you can secure the accounts on the Active Directory, securing the accounts on Windows 10, securing the accounts on Windows Server. Okay, so here is saying also one of the things to secure your accounts is to use the multi-factor authentication. So if a user needs to access his PC using his Windows account, this is not the only way to verify the user. He need to access his PC, he need to have a username and a password, and to provide a code sent to him through his mobile phone. So for example, this is a very known method. When you are accessing your Gmail account, you need to provide your username and password, and to provide a code that Google server sends to you on your mobile phone. Okay, register to your email and provide this code on the Gmail website. This is called multi-factor authentication. So this is one way to protect your accounts. So account management, you need to not only to secure the accounts, but you need to create the accounts, manage the accounts, managing them by disabling what is not active and monitoring them if there is suspicious activity for some accounts. So for example, we all know that we have in the group policies concerning Windows servers and Windows 10, we have enable audit for high privilege accounts to monitor the activity of these accounts. So all of these are account management. But let me show you all what bullet points or some points concerning how we can secure our accounts. First of all, establish and maintain inventory of accounts. Establish and maintain inventory of all accounts managed in the enterprise. The inventory must include both username and administrator accounts. The inventory at minimum should contain the person's name, username, start and stop dates, department. Validate that all active accounts are authorized on a recurring schedule at minimum quarterly or more frequently. So he's saying that in my department or in my field of work, every end of month we revise all of the accounts in all of the systems and see how of them didn't log to the system for a certain amount of time, for example maybe 40 days. Then if this is the case, we disable the account, this is one thing, and revise the usernames and passwords and see who of them have left the property, so we can disable his account. And we do this in coordination with the HR. They send us a report about the leavers or the resigned employees, so we need to revise it and revise this report and see who of them have left the property and delete their accounts. And when someone leaves the property, he needs to go to you to give him or to sign something called leavage, or sign to him that his account is disabled. So before leaving the property or resigning, he should come to you and tell you to disable his accounts. Okay, this is one thing, to establish and maintain the accounts, see who is inactive and disable it, and to have an inventory. How you can have an inventory? There is a lot of reports. If you are using an Active Directory, you can make a report with all of the usernames and passwords in the Active Directory. Refer, there is one video I have discussed in the COVID-19 lab how you can make an inventory of all of your usernames in the Active Directory. So please refer to it. It's called Active Directory Live Reports. Okay, this is in the COVID-19 lab. Then second thing, to use unique passwords. We have said this, we need to use a unique password for high privilege accounts. For example, like administrators, you need to have 14 password character or maybe more, and to use the multi-factor authentication. Okay, this is something. And this is the second point. The third point is to disable dormant accounts. So if an account is not used for 45 days, you need to disable it. And if this duration increased, then you should delete it if it's not used anymore. Okay, restrict administrative privileges to dedicated administrative accounts. So we have discussed before that every IT should have 2 accounts or more. One account to use it in his normal operation, checking his emails and checking his activity, especially his emails, or doing his normal work, and another account for administrative work, to use it to connect to servers, to alter the configuration or do something else. And also this administrative account should not hold all of the privileges, so you have several administrative accounts. One account to connect to the Active Directory, one account to connect to high value servers, and one account to use it on the Power Workstation, for example. We have discussed this before. Establish and maintain inventory of service accounts. You should have a report about the service accounts, because the service accounts, mostly they are accounts used to start a service, maybe the SQL server. Some if you need to access or to let me see this, if you need to access a SQL database, the SQL database will not be on unless a service called SQL Server is running, and this SQL Server service is running. It will run by a username or a Windows user account, so this is called service account. This account in many cases have administrative privileges on the machine, so this also should be monitored, and this service account user should have a strong password, and this service account should be listed in a PDF or listed in a document, so you know all of these accounts and you have inventory of it. So you should have an inventory of high value user accounts, like the administrator accounts, the domain admin account, the service accounts. You should know all of them, and you should monitor them carefully by eye or by having audit policies applied to them. We have discussed this also in the recommendations of the Department of Defense when you are securing Windows Server and securing Active Directory. Centralized account management. This is normal because we use the Active Directory as a centralized tool to manage all of our user accounts. So here we can see these are 6 points we can secure our accounts, and we have discussed before. Remember, we have discussed the account management. The Department of Defense of the United States stated that we need to have strong passwords, and it have stated how we can have strong passwords, how we can secure these passwords. For example, also when are using accounts on Windows 10 machine, for example, these accounts and passwords should be stored in specialized password manager softwares. We have discussed something like KeePass, for example, to store passwords, because this password is not stored in plain text, they are stored in an encrypted vault. Okay, so this is also, we have discussed all of these things before. Please refer to my videos concerning this point. Okay, so account management, you should secure your accounts by maintaining them, monitoring them, use a lot of things. So this is how we can, or this is the 5th point on account management, how we can secure our accounts by different methods. Hope this video is informative for you all, and thank you all for viewing. Thank you so much.